Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show this week. I'm Andrew Fazekas, the Night Sky Guy, and we're here to talk about, of course, the sky this week for March 29th, 2021. Why don't we jump in right away into the planetarium program and see what the night sky has in store for us this week? And here we are. We've got the night sky set up for later tonight. And looking towards the west is some old friends from the winter sky. In the northern hemisphere, these constellations, these bright lights that we see in the southwest, western skies this time of the year are really perennial favorites for the season. By that I mean wintertime is really some of the brightest stars that you can see, and even in early spring they dominate the winter skies, and that's what you're seeing here. Constellations like Orion, Canis Major, Canis Minor, Taurus, the Bull, all of these are favorites of the winter sky, but also they turn into early spring sky stuff as well. And if we look, we've got joining some of the stars that pin down these constellations, of course, is the planet Mars. We hear so much about it in the news with NASA's rover Perseverance making headlines, of course, on the planet itself. But you can see the red planet with the naked eye. And later this month, the moon will be joining Mars. So if you haven't seen the red planet for yourself near the moon, we saw that happen in February, and in the month of March, just a couple of weeks ago, we saw that. It will happen again in April, where the two will pair up. So that's great. So stay tuned for that. But it's very easy to find because it's close to another orange star, Aldebaran, a true star, and that marks the eye of Taurus the Bull. And what I wanted to showcase now with the moon maybe later in this week. So if you kind of wait a few days into the first few days of April, the moon will be rising later and later at night. In fact, into the early morning hours, your local time. In the east is where the moon is rising. And so we're recording this on March 29th. On Sunday, just yesterday, we saw the full moon. I don't know if you guys saw the full moon rise. It was absolutely beautiful. Any full moon every month is just gorgeous to watch. And so now the moon will be rising later and later at night, meaning that we get dark skies earlier in the evening. And you can take advantage of those dark skies without the lunar glare blinding you. You get to see what we call deep sky objects, things that are beyond the solar system. And one of those challenging objects that are super cool to see if you're a backyard sky watcher, and this is a challenge for those of you that are newbies to the hobby. You need binoculars or a small telescope to see this, but I thought I'd bring this out because I haven't mentioned it for a very long time. It's a deep sky object, and we've talked about the Pleiades that are over here. I'm circling it with my mouse. This is a beautiful open cluster. It's a very, very famous deep sky object. Let me just show that properly. There we go, the Pleiades, and take off some of the star names because there's a little too much with that, I think. There we go, just a few of them. And you can see what is very neat is you've got two star clusters, the Hyades, which is pinned down by Aldebaran, it's the big circle here, and then the small circle is Pleiades. And we've talked a lot about those. But there's another very interesting object in Taurus the Bull, and it's near the tip of the horns of Taurus the Bull, the one on the left. You see the tips of the horns of the bull are marked by this star over here, Elnath, and then there's another one here called Zeta Tau. Now, Zeta Tau has a friend next door that you need binoculars or a telescope to see, and that's called the Crab Nebula. Those of you that have dabbled into amateur astronomy may have heard of this deep sky. It's quite famous. It's one of the more famous deep sky objects that are available for backyard sky watchers to hunt down. And the Crab Nebula is just off to the right of Zeta Tau. And this is in a binocular field. I'm going to simulate a binocular field. You can see this is about what an average pair of binoculars will see. If you pin your sight down, now remember, this is the two stars that mark the tip of the horns of the bull. The left star is where you want to look at, and then point your binoculars and look through your binoculars, or a small telescope, but through binoculars, this is the field of view that you'll get. Let me adjust that. That's about what you'll see. And you'll see a faint, very faint smudge of light. It looks like a little tiny cloud or a little puffball that's just to the right of Zeta Tau, this star that marks the end of one of the horns of the bull. And that little puffball, if you have a telescope, then under high magnifications, it reveals itself into this massive cloud. It looks literally like an exploding cloud. And guess what? That's what the Crab Nebula is. The Crab Nebula represents an exploding cloud 6,200 light years away. And I'll show you a nice view of it. This is a photograph through a backyard telescope. And so what you're looking at is a star that exploded. And we saw this, astronomers back in the year 1054 AD. In the year 1054 AD, almost 1,000 years ago, astronomers, people, skywatchers at the time, saw this new star appear in the sky. And this is in Taurus, the bull, that constellation. That is where they saw it. And skywatchers around the world saw this. We know this because it's marked in sky charts that have been drawn by astronomers, skywatchers from China. We have this also in southwestern United States. Indigenous people there living at the time drew this on petroglyphs, on rocks. Really amazing to have this knowledge from way back when. And we know that with telescopes, we can look at this site where that star exploded, and we see that cloud still expanding today as we speak. And Hubble Space Telescope has looked at this and can actually see the small miniature in the last 20 years or 30 years that the telescope has been around. We've been able to see it with our telescopes, that expansion of that cloud. Astronomers have measured the tiny movement in these gaseous filaments that you see out there. It's a really amazing sight to see, and I'll show you a Hubble view. This is the view from the Hubble Space Telescope. Look at the detail that the Hubble Space Telescope can see of the Crab Nebula, also known as Messier 1. So Charles Messier, that famous French astronomer from the 17th century, we thank him for making a wonderful catalog of 110 different deep sky objects beyond our solar system that are just beautiful to look at for backyard astronomers using telescopes and binoculars, and some are even visible, of course, with the naked eye. But this particular one, the Crab Nebula, which kind of, I guess, resembles a crab, this is the view from the Hubble Space Telescope. And why does Hubble image look so amazing? Remember, that's because the Hubble Space Telescope actually is above the Earth. It's parked in an orbit about 800 kilometers above our heads, orbits the Earth, and it's above the blurring effect of the atmosphere of Earth, right? So being outside of that atmosphere, the molecules in the atmosphere, they basically create this blurring effect for vision. It's very much like if you throw a penny into a pool, a backyard pool, and you look at that penny at the bottom of the pool, you don't see it very clearly, do you? I mean, it's wavy. You get moments of clarity that you can see details on that penny at the bottom of the pool, but mostly it's blurry. And that's the same effect that we see of the heavens, of the universe. We look at stars, we look at galaxies and clouds we call nebula. All of these things look kind of blurry. They shimmer, they twinkle. That's because of the atmosphere that envelops our planet, right? So if we want to get clear views, that's why astronomers love to be able to put their telescopes into Earth orbit, into space, and it gives us that super clear view that we just can't get from on the ground here on Earth. And so we get these amazing sights like what Hubble here has been able to give us. And you can see it's much better than anything that even a backyard astronomer can do. So that is the Crab Nebula. So I highly recommend you watch that. Later this week, it's better with the moon not going to be in the early evening skies, and that is something that you can see in the southwest western sky near Mars. You'll see it's near Mars, is going to be close to it. Aldebaran is there. I will post a sky chart for this so you can try hunting down the Crab Nebula with binoculars and telescopes for yourself from your backyard. It's one of the coolest things to see. And just think of the fact that this object is 6,200 light years away. It means that you're seeing the Crab Nebula as it appeared 6,200 years ago. That's how long the light takes to travel to reach our eye. And back 1,000 years ago, ancient astronomers saw the light from this star. It basically was a supernova explosion, a giant star that exploded, and we see the remnants of that, the after effects of the explosion in the sky. A supernova explosion. And you may have heard about supernovas, by the way. There is another one that we're waiting for, and that is Betelgeuse in Orion. That's the other one that's made a lot of buzz in the news. Definitely a lot of astronomy buffs have been talking about this. Could it be that Betelgeuse, that bright star that marks the shoulder of Orion the Hunter, could go supernova, could explode at any moment? Could happen today, but it could also happen 100,000 years from now. Astronomically, that's a blink of the eye. But we think that Betelgeuse is really primed to explode. When it does, it will be one of the brightest stars ever to be seen. It will cast shadows, maybe as bright as the moon or brighter. You could maybe even read by Betelgeuse's light when it explodes. No harm will come to us. It's far enough away, at about 550 light years away. It's far enough from Earth that it will not pose any danger to us, but we will see it as a bright light. And that's something very, very cool to be able to just identify that star. Just above the belt of Orion is that orange star. And I'm just mentioning that because we're talking about, of course, the Crab Nebula as another really fascinating supernova. We call a remnant of a supernova. That's what the Crab Nebula is. So I'll have sky charts for that for you guys to look at. Now, another amazing deep sky object that I wanted you guys to look for with binoculars and telescopes is in the northwestern sky. So if we kind of zoom around in this planetarium software and we settle in on the northeastern sky, actually, you'll see where the Big Dipper is. Right there. Right there is the Big Dipper. You can see I'm marking it off with my mouse. And if we look just off the top of the two stars of the Big Dipper is on its side right now for anyone right across the northern hemisphere. You guys can see this in mid-evening. And what I want to showcase, we looked last week at one particular bright galaxy, was the Whirlpool Galaxy. So you can tune into last week's program for that and see that. That was really neat. And what I'd like to show this week is just off the tip of the bowl of the Big Dipper are two other really amazing galaxies. Now they're named here Bode's Nebula, but they do go by by the more traditional name, of course, of M81 and M82. M81 on the Charles Messier list. Again, that wonderful list of deep sky objects for us. These are two beautiful galaxies, and I can tell you with a small telescope, they are incredible to look at because you can see the shape of both of these galaxies. One is what we call an irregular galaxy, but it's kind of edge on, so it looks like a line almost in a fuzzy line. This is M82. And M81 is this kind of a spiral galaxy that's on a diagonal to us. So it's tilted towards us so we can see the shape. It looks like a beautiful oval shape. And this is absolutely amazing to be able to see these. They're 28 million million light years away. Not even kilometers. You see, that's what humans tend to think of as kilometers or miles, but we're talking about light years. So when you're looking at these objects through a backyard binoculars, this is pretty much how you'd see them. Two little faint fuzzy blobs close to each other. With a telescope, you'll get a better view, more like this, just about being able to get both objects in the same field of view under low power magnification in your backyard telescope. And it's amazing to think that you're looking back in time 28 million years. That's how long the light takes to travel from these two galaxies. They're relatively close by, and they're about the same distance from each other. I should say this is about half the distance M82 is, about 12 million light years, while this is 28 million M81 is, the spiral galaxy. And there really are some beautiful, I'll show you some a beautiful picture of M81 backyard picture, just spectacular. Look at those filaments of the spiral arms that just sort of hug the core of this galaxy. Just beautiful. And each of these little knots and filaments are gas clouds, are star clusters, just like what we see in our own Milky Way galaxy. But again, this is 28 million light years away. This is in the constellation just off of Ursa Major. You can see on the back of the Big Bear, right there, you can see the Big Bear. And it's very close to the Big Dipper. And you use the Big Dipper's last two stars you can see in the bowl, right here, these two stars, as a great guidepost in tracking down M81 and M82. It's just off of there. And you just use your binoculars to scan off to the side. I will have sky charts for this as well, so you don't want to miss that. So that's basically for deep sky objects that we can see. So why don't we now turn to the morning sky? Because if we look at the moon and we focus on the moon, how about this? I'm going to put this back a little bit earlier. And we're going to focus, again, this is on Monday, but I'll show you the moon climbing up in the eastern sky. But you'll see that this happens quite late at night. And let's look at where the moon is. You can see right here, I'm going to put it back for today. Let's just do today. Here we go. And we wait until the moon rises. And look at this. In the east, late at night, so this is around, I'd say around 9:30 at night, the near full moon. We had the full moon on Sunday night. This is Monday night. The moon is nestled in the constellation Virgo the Maiden. That's where you're seeing the moon. Nicely, well, I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger so you can see it clearly. There we go. Far off to the left is an orange star to the moon. That's Arcturus. That's the main star in Bootes, the constellation, the herdsman. And right next to the moon is a blue star. Just a fascinatingly beautiful blue gem, gliding very close to the moon. Check that out Monday night, later at night, maybe around 10 p.m., 11 p.m. local time, March 29th, you'll see the moon paired up with Spica. Now, what's interesting is that if I'll put it up to later at night, around midnight. This is actually around, about just past midnight. You see where the moon is right there, close up. But look what happens when we go to Tuesday. Tuesday, the moon is farther away from Spica now. You can see it's moved off from Spica. It's going to rise later at night. And then the moon will be in the constellation Libra by Wednesday. And if we make it later, we're already, to see the moon now, you'll have to be getting up, or staying up actually, after midnight, way into the early morning hours to see the moon. And the moon will be a great sight by Thursday. At just before dawn. I want you to look at this sight. Just absolutely beautiful. you'll have a lineup of the moon to the far right of where the sun rises. So you're looking towards the east, southeast, southern sky. This is a very wide angle view I have here. So you actually have to move your head to see all of this. So you'll definitely see the moon. And what I want you to look for right next to the moon is you'll see an orange star. That's in the constellation Antares. And if I go a little bit earlier, before dawn or twilight, where the sky is still dark in the early morning, maybe around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, you'll see the moon is hugging next to Antares, the bright star in Scorpius, the constellation Scorpius. So though you guys are early risers or late night owls, you'll see this. This is something that you'll be probably wondering, what is that orange star? Well, it's Antares. It's about 600 light years away, and it's the brightest star in the constellation Scorpius, and it'll be next to the waning gibbous moon. Again, this is Thursday morning that you'll see this. And if you look very carefully to the far left of that, you'll see pinning down the sky 2 bright stars, one much brighter than the other one. The brightest, closer to the horizon, will be Jupiter. And next to that will be a yellowish star, a little bit fainter. That is Saturn. 2 brilliant stars. Now, if you wait a little bit longer, maybe you're waking up at dawn, this is what you'll see at dawn. So you'll see that glow from the sunrise, the coming sunrise, maybe a half hour to 45 minutes before your local sunrise is what you're looking at here. And you'll see little faint Mercury embedded in that glow of the sunrise. Now, that will be a little bit of a challenge. You might need binoculars to see Mercury. But Jupiter and Saturn will be a cinch. No problem to see that. And then, of course, the moon will be way off to the right with Antares there paired up. That's on Thursday. And look by Friday. Friday, the moon is now popped onto the other side of Antares on Friday morning. And then Saturday, you'll see it in Sagittarius, the moon. Sunday, look at that. By Sunday, the moon is approaching Saturn and Jupiter. And then by Monday morning, a week from this broadcast, we're into April, the moon will be now forming a wonderful triad with Jupiter and Saturn. Amazing sight, folks. You don't want to miss any of that. Thank you so much for spending a few moments of your time with me. If you like this video, then hit that subscribe button. Please make sure you share and like this video too. And until next time, I wish all of you guys, of course, clear skies. Bye-bye.